Hello. Let's see. Hello, hello. Almost said morning, but of course I have it. Okay. We ready to go ahead and get started? We have any question? Elizabeth, I know you say you were having issues. If you want, uh we can address that on Saturday like you proposed, or if you want, if we got time, or if you want to spend extra time after class, however it ends up being, then I don't mind helping you as well.
Okay, let's aim for Saturday. That way I can try to get some of this debugged. I'm
Hmm.
one-armed right now, so I'm doing my
Nice.
best,
Well,
but you get where I've been like lately.
yeah, me too. I just started getting my right arm back, so I'm sorry. I hope everything's okay.
I tore my rotator cuff and possibly my labrum on Thursday on the way to.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah,
hate to hear that. Sorry.
it's been an adventure, but we're gonna make it through.
I didn't know my shoulder issues were contagious, so but okay. With that being said, I went to respond to your message and I seen that I had a message that never sent. So I shared the GitHub with all that code in there. So if you need that as a reference, it's in there as well for everything that we did on Saturday. But we'll go ahead and get started. If you don't have any questions about the homework or anything, I'll just jump right into it. Let me share my screen. And can we see that all right? Okay, perfect. So, where is it at? Okay. So last time we dropped off, we had just went through our cards and implemented the map function so that we can dynamically render all our items uh dynamically instead of having to call a component for each item that we expect. And that way, if we were to add an item or remove an item, it would automatically be updated in that sense. So now the next thing that we're going to discuss that was part of our homework is use state. Um, we're primarily going to focus on use state today. We're not going to get into use effect, mainly until Saturday. That way we'll have enough time to cover use state, pretty well. So what use state is, so we're going to be using it to track values as they update and dynamically render those updated values as well. So we're going to demonstrate that by building a controlled search input. And then that is going to filter the middle list as you type. So it sounds complicated, but uh, with React is going to be it's going to seem simplified as well. So it's something that sounds complicated, but it's actually something that can be done pretty simply, I would say. So useState is a hook that adds state to a component, and then it returns the current value. So I kind of went over this when we first started talking about React, but it has the current value, which is the count. And then it has the setter function, which is the second part of this array, which is the set count. The count in this instant is going to show you, like I said, the current value. The set count is a function that is going to set the value for this count. So whatever expression you pass into the set count is going to be evaluated, and then the value that's returned is going to equal this count. So it becomes this count. And then so when we're declaring our use state, like I said, we have that count. We're declaring what we're going to call this value, that current value, and then the set count. We're naming that function to set, or basically the name for our setter function. And then we are initializing it with the use state. Uh, as you see here, it has a value that's zero. The zero rec the what we're putting in our parentheses is gonna basically it's gonna represent our default value, right? So when this use state is initially called, we're giving it a default value. So now this zero is basically telling count that it's currently going to be set to zero as soon as we initialize it. And then this is that same button I showed you when we did every time we click that button, it incremented the count, so it was +1 to that count every time. And that's what we're seeing here. So we're doing that set count. This is that function, right? See here, that set count function. We're setting the count and then we're telling it what expression. So we're passing the expression, uh, telling it how it should set that count. We can we could even set it with a hard-coded number. If we wanted to set it to 24, we can just pass 24, or we can do an expression where you can do, the count +1. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So uState has a little quirk to it that can cause some unintended values if you're not aware of what's going on. So it doesn't update it immediately when you call it. And so like if you were have multiple use states calling that same use state in the same function, for example, uh they all reference by default, it's all going to reference that same value if we're doing it this way. So the count +1, that this count they're all referencing the same initial count, right? So it's set count, count +1. In this instance, count equals zero. But also, if we go to the next one, also in this instant, count still equals zero. So it hasn't actually updated yet. Uh, so the way that we get it to recognize that we it's essentially creating a queue system for it. So what we're doing is we do the set count and then we're passing this parameter, right? If we pass a parameter, it's going to tell it, okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be this which stands for previous. It can be basically any value, but this is just like the industry standard, I guess you would say, right? So it's this previous kind of like that implicit return that we talked about with the arrow function. So it has that arrow and then it's previous +1, right? So this is essentially queuing it up. So then when we do go to the next one, it's gonna do that. We got our set count function, and then we're passing this parameter. And then even though that we're passing these three set counts, they don't even have to be the same uh parameter, right? So we could really change this. This could be like we could have this as previous. This could be last and then last +1. And they're still doing the same thing. They're evaluating it uh as the parameter in a queuing system. It is I would say a first in, first out type of situation. So uh it's not going to go through like, +1. It's not going to get to the last one and then start evaluating them from the last one up. It's basically adding them to a queue, and then the first one that was called, it's going to evaluate them in order, I should say. So it's going to take them in order and evaluating them like the first one that came in is going to evaluate that one, and then it's going to go so on through on each one. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions about that one? No? Okay. All right. So what you state does give us is a simplified way to control inputs essentially. So if you remember, I said we're going to be working with a search input, right? A search bar basically, where uh every time we type something in, it's going to update for each value. So what this is going to look like is we're going to have our use state, we're going to declare our query, right? Our query state, and then we are returning um an input element. And in this element, we are the value that you see here, the value is going to equal query. So how React work is every time this changes, React is going to change this value, right? This query. So every time this update, it's going to update. So how we handle that is on change. The on change is looking if our form value, what's been input into our form has changed, right? So the event they use you'll see E a lot because it stands for the event. So on change, and it's gonna be our event parameter. So you'll see that a lot because like typing is an event, kind of like when we what is it? When we working with JavaScript, I don't remember if we specifically work with on change, but we did like with our on click, right? Where if we click something, we wanted something to happen. So we got that arrow function, and then here you see we're doing the set query. So it's gonna be e dot target dot value. So target is representing the input field, right? So the event dot target and it's gonna take that value, and then it's going to set this query state as that value. So every time an event is registered, it's going to update the query, right? And then so we're telling it to not only show, so what is happening here? Let me see. I can Let me go ahead and demonstrate this one actually. So I'll go to our body component. And you don't have to follow along. This one's more of a demonstration. Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and do our input. And then we'll do our type. Oh, well, it'll help if I go ahead and let the query bug. What not? And we'll go ahead and set that as an empty string. So query on chain. Oops. All right. And forget okay. Go ahead and do a placeholder. Okay. And then so from there, we should have, oh, I broke something. What did I break? Oh, no wonder I put input. My brain. Okay, text. I don't input. Oh, okay, I know. So an important thing, sometimes I get ahead of myself and you'll probably catch yourself doing this because you'll be used to it. But we also need to import uState from React. So it didn't error me out right there. It did in there, but let's see, did it that there it goes. All right, so now, so it's just a regular button. So we'll go ahead and do, so we do from our Daisy UI. Oh wait, that's a button. I don't remember any for not for demonstrations. We'll fix it up later. But so then, so here, okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. So here, as you can see, the uh value here is the study. So when we talk about the event, like target dot value, versus the actual, let me see. So when we're talking about like here, the on change, well, every time we're doing that, enacting that on change function versus the value. So without the on change, you would still see us typing. Let's see. Let me do it like this. So you can see how it's updating every time I type something without the on change. There it goes. See how it is. Oh, it's setting the value. So it's setting this value to the query. What the query is not able to ever be changed. So let's see if we give it a value, um, a default. So we have that default value, but now every time I'm typing in here, now every time I'm trying to, I'm typing, no, but every time I type, it's not registering because it's just showing that default value. So that's why it's pretty important to have ooh, that that on change. So we got to have that event handler for it to appropriately show. So now when I do it, it does it. But as we can see, if we refresh, so we refresh and we still have our default value as well. And then we are going to get into a point where uh you can dynamically set your use state default value. So that way, if you are accessing local storage, you could set your default to be based on a value in local storage. So you can pull from there to set your default as well. So like if you were to exit the page and then come back to it, it'll access your local storage and then set that use state based on your local storage value. All right. Any questions about that so far? Okay. If I'm moving too fast or you have any questions or anything sounds confusing or anything like that, don't hesitate to let me know. That's what we're here for. Okay. So now that we got that and we see the basic shape of like the use state and the use case, we'll move on. So we're gonna move on to filtering. We probably remember seeing filtering from our JavaScript course. Here you're gonna see how we use filtering to actually update our live search, right? To So what's going to happen here is we got these items right from our sample mills. So what's going to happen is that we're going to um as we type, we're going to update our list to only show items based on their title that has that that match our string, right? That we pass through our search. So we want to pull in the value to yeah, the title. We want to pull in titles that match our value so that we can filter down our search. All right. So here, so kind of having an idea of what's going on, how we're going to use this. So we got our query, and what we're going to do is, for instance, we got our use state, our query. We're querying it. We're initializing it with a default value of with the empty string. We're going to declare visible mill. So instead of using the query directly, we're actually gonna use it our visible mills, right, variable, which is going to have a filter on our sample mills that we're pulling from our whole hard-coded data. And so then we're gonna do our filter method, which we're gonna pass for each, it's gonna iterate through each item in our mills, our sample mills, and then for each item, we're gonna declare it as a mill, and then we're gonna do mill dot string mill, which is that title mill uh that we are getting from our sample mills. And then you see here that we're lowercasing it. So this is pretty common. You'll see this to lowercase. So that way there's not any mismatch from if there from no case mismatch. So if one, what we're putting in, we want it to all be lowercase. So even if we're typing in upper cases or capitalized letters or anything like that, they're gonna come in, they're gonna get lowercase, and then the dot includes, so it's gonna get our string, and it's gonna check to see if our string includes our query, right? What we're typing in, and we're going to lowercase that as well. So it's going to check if we have if there our string has any match to it whatsoever, right? So if you remember it's gonna look, so if we were for say typing in we have this, the arroz con gambas or whatever. I'm probably butchering it. But so what we're our goal is we want to be able to type in the ROZ, and it still should bring this because it includes that ROZ, right? And then let's see if we have BA. So like we have like these two items, like the baked, the balchi, and the bang bang bong bong or whatever. Those all start with BA. So we want to be able to type in BA, and all those results should be coming back. So that's what we're expecting from this, right? So what we're going to do is I already have my query. So now what I'm going to do is do the oops. Yeah, we have our sample mills. So we're going to do the visible mills, and it's going to be sample, dot filter. No, not capitalized. All right. And then we want to okay. So it's going to be the mill dot. All right. So it was kind enough. a good thing about IntelliSys is kind enough to kind of predict, it sees the shape of our sample mill, so it knows that we're wanting one of these items. So we want that string mill because that's what we determined was the title. Okay. So we got the filter, the mills, string mills. All right. And then we want to do two lowercase and then dot includes. And then we want our query dot two lowercase to ensure that they match. All right. And put do query. So we get rid of our query because that was for example. So now instead of our sample mills, we only want to show the items that we have determined that were visible mills, right? So this is I do want to touch on this for like the visible mills. You'll see a lot of this in I want to say JavaScript, but a React especially you do really want to name like if you're declaring variables and things, you do really want to declare them like I forget the term, but for what they're going to be used for, right? I want the variable to be used for the mills that I want to be visible, right? So these are my visible mills. So it's really helpful for when you are working, you can just evaluate this and see that, okay, I know this is my visible mills. And then when you're using it, you're like, this is my visible mills. So like if I was troubleshooting, if I was doing the search and I'm wondering why is my search not returning my visible mills, and I go and I look and I'm like, oh, it's because I'm using sample mills and not my visible mills variable, right? So here we should only be getting visible mills now. So let's see. We had WA, but it is not updating. All right. Now it is not updating simple mills. Did I mess up somewhere on my sample mills dot filter mills dot to lowercase dot includes. Oh, hold up. Query. Get rid of this. So the value query and then on change we're setting query. So that should dynamically render visible mills dot map dot mu. It could be the way, let's see, because I know that's right. How did I have
Um,
it?
Keep in
Yeah,
mind that I really have no idea what I'm talking about, but I is it does it need to render the results? Is that what's missing, or I mean I don't even know because I don't know what to look for, but that's the only thing I can think of.
query set query. So it should be, let's see, query total case. It should be evaluating it. Oh, I changed the, oh, okay. Yes, I see now. So we do still do the sample. Oops. I had a, so we're mapping. Okay, I'll show you. This is so I ended up, I think I got ahead of myself here. So I was trying to map. It's probably so I'm pretty sure I'm getting ahead of myself with because normally you would probably use like you use a use effect to handle this a lot of time. And then so what's happening is the sample mills is running on the render, so we're not on the mount, so we're not updating this component. So it's being initialized as with the visible mills as 0, and then there's no way for it to be updated to render properly. So here uh I got I had a mill list, but I don't think I added it here. Okay, so let me go ahead and fix that. Uh-oh. Oh no, my computer. Okay. So one way we could do that is we got our visible mills, but it also should, hold up, let me see. Because I think if I was to put this in a use state, or use effect, I mean, a use effect will fix that, but that's beyond our scope, so I'll wait on that one. So what I need to do is, see, here I will, let me see if I have it already. That's 33. All right, so we need so it's if I did the mill list, but I never put the mill list in, and I will and I put it in my other one. So I'm pulling that in. Let's see. Okay. It did. Okay, let's do this. So we want to actually we don't need to. Yeah, oh, wait, this is milk cart. Oh, what's milk cart? So we're gonna use this milk cart in our meal list, and then Oh, that's what I'm forgetting. What's the default? So we'll pull in mail card. Sorry if I'm moving a little. Oh wait, fast. So we do mute. This should be. Oh, I forgot that's. Is our where's our example data? It is. Well, you know what? I forget. It will fill. It did not. ID mail. That's what it is. ID mail. No, I hit the wrong one. Export default. Export default. Okay. So we go back to our body. And we should be doing it. No, we had a whole component, so we don't need that anymore. And then we can use our shorthand that we learned by typing in that and then hit enter. So it's going to import for us. And then we do meals equals visible meals. And then that should render it. Maybe. What am I breaking here? Let me kill my.
This feels very familiar, I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. But there is I mean, I do this intentionally so we can see these live. Oh, so we can see these live because it's good to see these issues live because always do that. Because it's a good learning experience to go through the process. Oh, let me. I don't think this is the issue, but I'm gonna kill my server and then restart it as well, just to make sure. Okay. So then let's see. We got our meal card. We're doing our meal cards coming through here. We're passing the meal. We got our meal list, meals, visible meals. Hmm. It's always a really simple fix. It might even be, okay, so we'll do this. I'm gonna take this code and then, because I got the sample filter, and if we need to, and then I'll run it through the AI and see what's going on here. It could be, oh, I see why. I think I know why. Because I put it's supposed to be an implicit return, but I didn't do an implicit return, so it's expecting a return, I think. Yeah. See, it's always a rookie mistake. So force a habit, I was supposed to do when I did it this format, uh I say force habit, but that's not a habit. But so I did the brackets. So when you do the brackets, it expects a return. So I did the implicit return format, but I didn't have but I did the brackets. So that's why. But if we get rid of the brackets, then it should work as well. So so when you add the brackets, it expects a return because it expects you to do everything else. It expects to have you when you do it with the brackets, hold up, you can you can declare, oh, hold up. So like you can do, you can still with the brackets, you can declare variables and all that stuff. So it's not going to return it because it doesn't know what it should return and what it shouldn't return. So if we were to get rid of the brackets, then this wouldn't make sense. So we got the cons because it's expecting a explicit return. So that's why a very simple mistake like that could cause you not to get the expected return. All right, so now it's returning it. And then as we type, so we let's see, that's the first one. Let's do the, oh wait, did I have the visible mills? Hmm, did I restart? Oh, did that have a, oh, it did have a BA in it. I was so confused. Okay, it does have, I forgot about the Gombas. Okay. There are so many different languages here. So, okay. But yeah, so as you can see, I should make these smaller so we can see them a little bit better. What are we? I do not remember where we are handling. Oops. I think we're handling. We'll do it right here. Mm. But I could have sworn. Okay, that's a little bit more manageable. But we do. So as we type, and then even as we, so it's just on the chain. So even if we uh were to go back, backspace, anything like that, then it's going to also register that. So now it's only showing the items that is returning our visible mills. Any questions about that? I know we were only focused on use state today, and it was still kind of a lot to take in. Um, but I really want to just go through it and show you kind of like what you can do with like how use state is applied. So you get an idea of like what to think, like if you're kind of when you kind of start thinking about when you should use state, right? So it's like when you're wanting to dynamically render things like this, like these food items, uh, being able to just go in and type and then update the values as you go through. So there are some other different things that you could use state for. So but this is just a basic use case with that. But we'll be seeing some more applications of use state because you can do a lot of things. You can use it to manage your form values. You can use it pretty much for it's a good way to update things that you need to only handle locally on the at the DOM level without having to, so you don't have to store things in local storage or whatever and call it back out or anything like that. This is a really good way to manage those type of things. Uh but we have a little extra time. So just to go over like what rendering means. So you'll hear rendering a lot in React. So when you think rendering, what rendering is doing is basically calling your component, your uh and any like those components that we're using to show things on the page. It's calling those components and returning values, right? And using those values that it returns. So as we were every time we were updating our query, we were calling that component and updating, and we were rendering those new values, right? So even those new items that were showing. So it happens initially on mount. So when your page loads and then it mounts the DOM, then it's going to render all those components in their current state, right? Uh, and then every time the state changes or props changes or anything like that, or in the future when we use effect, then it's going to re-render as well. So like I said, it's basically like a snapshot of the UI at that moment. So it takes those values at that time that it renders, and then it just shows them. Um, and then one of the benefits that makes it useful is that it only updates the part of the DOM that actually changed, right? So if you have two separate components and you have a value that changes and it only affects one of those components, it's only gonna render that one component and then only the DOM the part of the DOM that changed, right? So it's not gonna if you have other items, it's not gonna affect the other parts of your page. So it's really useful for that type of stuff. Um, but we're ending a little bit early. We have any questions about rendering or anything like that? It As we go on, you'll start understanding or start, yeah, you'll start getting more practice with it, understanding more about where like rendering is important. And you'll see that a lot of your issues comes from rendering how things are being rendered, how you expected it to be rendered, but it's being rendered a different way, those type of things. Kind of with the how I was explaining how like use state is updated, right? All those things are happening. Like when what was it? When I showed went back too far. All these things are happening. If you do it this way, all these things it is happening and then it's rendering once. But for this one, um it's also so it's doing the queue system, it's still also rendering once, but it doesn't have that delay effect like you would expect like with the set count because the set count is happening and then what was it? Okay, I said it's rendering. So yeah, this is rendering once, and then this is rendering once per item, right? So it's you could actually like every time it happened, you could actually like see it in the DOM happening as it goes on, like with the function as well. So that's something um that you can keep in mind. So if you're doing something that is going through and it's updating the count each time it hits, then that's something that you would expect to see in the Dom as well. But if we don't have any questions, I'll let you have your 9 minutes back. No. Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
of course, we'll get a little bit more hands-on on Saturday. And if you have any questions from now until then, don't hesitate to reach out. Like I said, like Elizabeth, if you have any questions or need help with anything, just let me know and I'll help where I can.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Of course. All right, y'all have a good rest of your day.
You
Thanks, you too.
too.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.